When a man goes quiet, the first thing most women do is panic. You start wondering what you did wrong, replaying every conversation, every text message, every little change in tone. You start assuming that silence means disinterest, that distance means detachment. But hold on, baby girl. Let me tell you something that'll save you a whole lot of sleepless nights. A man's silence ain't always his absence. Sometimes that man ain't leaving you. He's trying to find himself so he can come back to you stronger. And if you misread that, you might walk away from someone who was never trying to lose you. He was just trying to find peace inside himself. See, men are raised differently. From the time we're little boys, the world teaches us that crying makes you weak, that emotions are dangerous, that vulnerability is something to be ashamed of. So when a man grows up, he doesn't always know how to handle emotional pressure the right way. Instead of talking about it, he retreats. Instead of explaining what's wrong, he goes silent. That's not because he don't care. It's because he's trying to fix what's broken before it spills out on you. You think he's shutting you out, but really, he's protecting you from the chaos in his own mind. Now, I'm not talking about every man. Some men go quiet because they don't care, and you got to know the difference. But if that man has shown you consistency, love, and commitment, and suddenly he's distant, there's a deeper story there. A good man goes silent when his pride is bruised, when his world feels shaky, or when life hits him harder than he expected. He don't want you to see him broken, not because he's hiding, but because he don't know how to let you carry his pain. That silence ain't detachment. It's him trying to get back to a place where he can love you from a full heart, not a fractured one. Let me put it to you this way. Women process emotion through communication. Men process emotion through contemplation. When a woman is hurt, she wants to talk about it. When a man is hurt, he wants to fix it. Talking feels like weakness to him. So he steps back, not because he's done, but because he's trying to figure out how to win the battle inside his own head. That's his version of therapy. He's replaying things, analyzing his failures, asking himself if he's still enough. And sometimes when he looks at you, this amazing woman he loves, he feels the pressure of wanting to be everything you deserve. That pressure can make him pull away. Not because he's losing love, but because he's afraid of losing himself while trying to be what you need. Here's the part most women don't understand. When a man truly loves you, his silence hurts him too. He misses you, Wyatt. He still checks your messages. He still looks at your pictures. He still wonders if you're okay. But he doesn't reach out because he's scared that if he shows up empty, he'll disappoint you. He's not avoiding you. He's avoiding failure. And sometimes the only way a man knows how to rebuild himself is through isolation. He pulls away not to detach, but to recharge. I've seen this play out time and time again. A man loses his job, and instead of talking about it, he just shuts down. A man feels insecure about his future, and instead of asking for support, he just goes distant. That's not pride. That's pain wrapped in silence. And if the woman on the other end don't understand that, she'll take that distance personally. She'll assume it's about her when it's really about him. That's how good relationships crumble. Not because the love disappeared, but because misunderstanding built a wall between two people who actually still care deeply. Let me break this down with something real. When a man is quiet, that doesn't mean his mind is empty. That man's thoughts are loud. He's replaying every move, every decision, every fear. He's thinking about how to make things right. He's wondering if he's still the man you fell in love with. His silence is not neglect. It's him trying to get back in alignment with himself. You see, men have this thing called internal struggle. We fight battles nobody knows about. We question our worth, our strength, our ability to provide and protect. And when that weight gets heavy, we don't always talk about it. We isolate. That's not emotional absence. That's emotional recalibration. Now, ladies, I know what you're thinking. But Steve, if he loves me, shouldn't he talk to me? Yes, in a perfect world. But relationships ain't perfect, and neither are people. You can't expect a man who's been trained to hide his emotions his whole life to suddenly become an open book overnight. Growth takes time. Emotional maturity takes experience. Some men have never had a safe space to open up before. And when he finally finds one in you, it might scare him more than it soothes him. That's the part most women miss. Sometimes love exposes wounds that haven't healed yet. Now, let me tell you this straight. Don't chase a man when he goes silent. Don't blow up his phone. Don't demand explanations. Don't guilt trip him into communication. That won't bring him closer. It'll push him farther away. See, when a man is quiet, what he needs most is understanding, not interrogation. You don't have to fix him. You just got to trust him enough to find his way back. Give him space with grace. If he's real, he'll return. And when he does, he'll remember how you didn't turn his silence into chaos. See, men notice how women react when they're at their lowest. You want to know what makes a man commit deeper? It's when he realizes you're the kind of woman who doesn't panic during his quiet storms. You stay steady and don't assume the worst. You don't start playing games to get his attention. You just hold your peace and trust the connection you've built. That speaks louder to a man than any words ever could. Because deep down, a man wants to know that the woman beside him can handle both his power and his pain. Let me be real, sometimes that silence might last longer than you like. And that's where patience comes in. If he's still showing up in small ways, checking on you, doing little things, staying consistent, then his distance ain't detachment, it's discipline. He's taking time to grow. But if he disappears completely, stops caring, stops showing up, then yes, that's detachment. And when that happens, don't beg him to return. Because love should never have to be chased, it should be chosen. The key to understanding a man's silence is discernment. Ask yourself, is this man's distance fueled by love or by laziness? Is he healing or is he hiding? A man who's still burning for you will find his way back once he's done fighting his own demons. But a man who's done will use silence as an exit, not a pause. You gotta know the difference, baby. And that comes from paying attention, not to his words, but to his patterns. Let me tell you something from experience. When a man loves you, he never stops thinking about you. Even in his quietest moments, you're still in his mind. He might not say, I miss you, but he feels it every day. He might not text you paragraphs, but he's still checking your name when his phone lights up. He might not talk, but his actions, even small ones, will tell you that you still matter. That's not detachment. That's love working behind the curtain. But here's the challenge. You got to be emotionally mature enough to handle that phase. You got to learn to trust his intentions more than his timing. Every man needs a moment to go silent, to breathe, to think. And the right woman understands that his quiet doesn't mean he's done loving her. It means he's learning how to love better. You don't lose him during his silence and lose him when you stop believing in his return. So if you're with a man who's grown distant lately, don't panic. Take a breath. Look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself, did this man love me consistently before this silence? Did he show up for me when things were good? Did he care for me when I needed him? If the answer is yes, then trust that silence is temporary. He's probably working on something, probably healing something. Give him space to do that. Because when he comes back, and trust me, a man who's burning for you will always come back. He'll love you deeper for the patience you showed. A man's silence can be a scary thing, but it's not always the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of his breakthrough. Sometimes it's the quiet before his comeback. You just got to learn to listen not with the ears, but with your spirit. Because love, real love, speaks even in the silence. And when that man reemerges, stronger, centered, and ready, you'll realize that distance wasn't detachment. It was devotion in disguise. That's the truth right there. Don't mistake his quiet for coldness. Don't misread his distance as disinterest. Some men love you so deeply that they have to step away just to make sure they can handle the fire you bring. And when he returns, baby, you'll see that man wasn't gone. He was just gathering himself to love you right. Now, let's get into something that a lot of people misunderstand about men, how we express love. See, women are emotional creatures. You talk through your feelings, you connect through words, and you need to feel emotionally understood. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful. But the problem is when you start expecting a man to love the same way you do. Because a man's love doesn't always show up in conversation. It shows up in consistency. A man's love isn't loud, it's loyal. He may not say, I love you, every day, but he's out there doing everything he can to prove it in his own way. You just got to know how to see it. See, we grew up different. From the time a boy is little, people tell him, man up, don't cry, don't talk about it, fix it. So he learns early that feelings are something you manage, not something you share. He learns to measure love in action, not in emotion. So when he grows up and falls in love with you, that training follows him. He might not sit down and pour out his heart like you do, but he'll show up for you in ways that matter. He'll protect you, he'll provide for you, he'll make sure you're okay even when he's not. That's his way of saying, I love you. And if you miss that because it didn't come wrapped in romantic words, he'll think he doesn't care, when in reality, he's caring the only way he knows how. Let me give you a little truth right here. A man who's truly done with you won't move for you. He won't call, won't check in, won't care if you're okay. But that man who's distant, quiet, but still showing up in small ways, that's not a man who's detached. That's a man who's burning inside for you, but doesn't know how to show it the way you want. You got to learn to read a man's actions with your heart, not your expectations. Let's say he's not texting you paragraphs anymore, but he's still fixing your car, checking to see if you made it home safe, paying attention to the little things you need. That man is still in it. He's just expressing it differently. Maybe he's not the type to say, baby, I miss you, but he'll drive 45 minutes just to see you for 10. Maybe he won't talk about his day, but he'll make sure yours was good. That's how men love. It's quiet, steady, and practical. It's not always romantic in the way you imagine, but it's real. And let me tell you something, just because a man ain't saying it doesn't mean he ain't feeling it. A man who's in love feels deeply. He just processes it internally. When he buys you food, fills your gas tank, or remembers something small you said weeks ago, that's his I love you. When he's tired, stressed, or broke, but still finds a way to make sure you're taken care of, that's his I got you. See, women want poetry, but men give presents. Men don't always speak love, they perform it. Now, I'm not saying you should settle for a man who never communicates. No, communication matters. But before you call him detached, ask yourself, what does his effort look like? Is he trying? Because effort speaks volumes in a man's world. A man will move mountains for the woman he loves. But if he's distant and still consistent, that's not detachment, that's devotion under pressure. Sometimes a man's love language ain't words of affirmation. It's acts of service. You just got to learn his language before you assume he's silent. I remember talking to this brother one time, married 15 years. His wife told him, "You don't tell me you love me anymore." He looked at her and said, "A woman, I told you I loved you the day I married you. If anything changes, I'll let you know." Now, that might sound cold to some of y'all, but in his mind, love wasn't something you repeat. It was something you reinforce. Every bill paid, every roof repaired, every late night drive to pick her up. That was his way of saying it. To him, love was proven, not spoken. Now, ladies, I know that can be hard to understand because y'all need that emotional reassurance. But here's the thing. When you stop demanding love to show up your way, you start seeing how it's already showing up his way. You start noticing that even in his distance, he's still present. Even in his quiet, he's still protective. That's not detachment. That's a man expressing love from a masculine place. Through doing, through showing, through providing, you see the world puts pressure on men to always be strong, always have answers, always handle everything. So when he's going through something, you don't want to burden you with it. He'll go quiet, not because he's hiding, but because he's processing. He'll pull away to regroup, but that don't mean he stopped loving you. He's just trying to come back solid. And while he's doing that, he'll still do the small things, checking your tires, calling your mom, paying attention to your tone. That's a man's way of staying connected even when his emotions are heavy. Ladies, don't confuse emotional stillness for emotional absence. Some men love you so deeply that it humbles them into silence. They're scared of saying the wrong thing, scared of showing the wrong weakness. So instead they do. They act. They prove. And that's the language of a real man. Love that moves. Love that protects. Love that builds. You ever notice how a man might not say much about how he feels, but if somebody else disrespects you, suddenly that same quiet man is ready to fight? That's because his love is rooted in action. He might not tell you every day that he cares, but he'll make sure no one else forgets to respect you. That's his pride, his instinct, his way of saying, "She's mine and I've got her." That's what I call quiet loyalty. Now here's where women sometimes go wrong. You start testing his love because he's not talking. You stop appreciating his effort because you want emotion instead. You start picking fights, asking questions like, "Do you even care anymore?" And that makes him shut down even more. Because men don't respond well to emotional pressure. They respond to emotional peace. You got to learn to appreciate the quiet gestures. You got to learn to recognize love that moves in silence. If you want your man to open up more, don't demand it, inspire it. Be the space he feels safe in. When he's quiet, don't attack the silence. Fill it with calm. Ask him how his day was, not what's wrong with him. Encourage him when he's struggling. Don't interrogate him. That's how you build trust. And once he feels that, baby, he'll start talking. Slowly, softly, but sincerely. A man who feels safe will open up, but a man who feels pressure will shut down. And I want you to understand this too. Sometimes his love don't look romantic because he's expressing it through responsibility. The things he does behind the scenes, the things he sacrifices that you don't even see, that's love. Maybe he's working long hours. Maybe he's stressed trying to plan a better future for both of you. And he doesn't have the words to explain it. That's not detachment. That's devotion disguised as distance. He's trying to carry the weight so you don't have to. But here's the flip side. Don't confuse laziness with quiet love either. A man who's not doing anything for you, not showing up, not caring, not investing, that's not silence, that's selfishness. Don't make excuses for neglect. Real love leaves evidence. You can feel it in the effort, see it in the pattern, and trust it in the consistency. If his silence still comes with support, that's love. If it comes with nothing, that's avoidance. Let me tell you something powerful. A man's love is steady, not dramatic. It won't always come in grand gestures or long speeches. Sometimes it's simple. It's the way he watches you walk across the room. It's the way he remembers you like your coffee. It's the way he holds your hand in silence. That's love in motion. That's love that don't need applause. And the more you understand this, the easier your relationship becomes. Because once you stop expecting him to love like you can finally see how much he already does. You'll realize that his distance is often him trying to figure out how to love you right. He's replaying in his mind what he could have done better, what he needs to fix, how he can make you proud. That's what goes on inside a good man's silence. So next time your man seems distant, look at what he's doing, not just what he's saying. Is he still making sure you're good? Still protecting your peace? Still choosing you in his actions? Then baby, that man ain't detached. He's devoted. He's burning inside, trying to make sure he's worthy of the love you give him. And that's a kind of love that don't fade easy. You see, when a man truly loves you, every move he makes has you in mind. Even when he's quiet, he's planning. Even when he's distant, he's thinking. Even when he's tired, he's trying. He might not tell you every emotion he feels, but he's showing it every day through what he does. And when you start seeing love through that lens, you stop doubting it and start appreciating it. Because real love isn't always spoken, it's shown. And when a man is quiet but still showing up, you better believe he's burning inside for you. He just loves you in a language that doesn't always need words. Sometimes a man doesn't pull away because he's fallen out of love. He pulls away because he's trying to find his strength again. That's something a lot of women miss. You see him going quiet, you feel the distance growing, and your heart starts whispering as losing interest. But what if I told you that distance isn't rejection, it's restoration? What if I told you that man is fighting a war inside that has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with him trying to feel like a man again? Men are wired differently. A man's confidence is tied to his identity. It's tied to his ability to provide, to protect, to lead, to produce. And when any of those things get shaken, his money, his goals, his perks up his direction, it hits him in a place you can't see, but he feels deeply. It hits his spirit. So when that happens, he withdraws. He doesn't go cold because he stopped loving you. He goes silent because he's ashamed of not being the man he wants to be for you. His distance is not about detachment, it's about dignity. Now, you got to understand something about how men process pain. Women talk to release, men retreat to rebuild. When a woman hurts, she wants to share, to be comforted, to be understood. But when a man hurts, he wants to solve, to fix, to conquer it alone. He don't want pity, he wants progress. And until he feels like he's back on his feet, he won't open up. It's not that he doesn't trust you. It's that he doesn't trust himself enough to let you see him that vulnerable. Let me break it down like this. When a man is struggling, everything feels like pressure. Every, "Are you okay?" feels like a reminder that he's not. Every "Talk to me" feels like a spotlight on what he's trying to hide. He don't need confrontation. He needs compassion. He don't need you to fix him. He needs room to fix himself. That's what his distance is for. He's not disconnecting from you. He's disconnecting from his weakness so he can reconnect with his strength. And if you love him, you got to learn to recognize that. You got to learn when to hold him and when to give him space. See, a strong woman knows when silence ain't rejection. It's reflection. You don't smother a man who's trying to rebuild. You stand beside him quietly and let him fight his battle. That don't mean you ignore him. It means you support him without suffocating him. You let him know, "I'm here if you need me," and then you let him come to you when he's ready. Because trust me, when a man's trying to find his footing again, he notices how you handle his low moments. He remembers whether you nagged him when he was down or whether you believed in him when he was struggling. That's what defines loyalty to a man. Not how you treat him when he's winning, but how you treat him when he's wounded. I've seen so many relationships fall apart because she thought his silence meant disinterest. She thought his withdrawal meant he didn't care. But the truth is, he cared so much he didn't want to fail her. See, a man's love comes with responsibility. And when he feels like he can't live up to that, he starts pulling back. Not because he's done with you, but because he's disappointed in himself. He's asking questions like, what kind of man am I if I can't provide, if I can't protect her, if I can't make her proud? Those thoughts eat at him in silence. You might see a man sitting there quiet, staring off, and think he's uninterested. But in that man's mind, there's a storm raging. He's trying to figure out how to get his money right, how to fix that mistake, how to rebuild that dream. And until he does, he won't feel like he's enough. That's what a lot of women miss. Sometimes that distance you feel is just him rebuilding his self-worth. But here's the part that's hard to hear. Not every woman can handle that, because when a man goes quiet, it triggers a woman's fear of abandonment, and that fear can make you do things that push him even further away. You start over-questioning, assuming the worst. You start chasing for reassurance that he can't give right now. But what you don't realize is that man's silence ain't about you. It's about him trying to remember who he is. Let me tell you something real. A man needs to feel capable before he feels connected. He needs to feel strong before he can be soft. And if he's not standing on solid ground within himself, no amount of love from you will fix that. You can love him through it, but you can't heal him for it. You can encourage him, but you can't carry him. That's a battle he's got to win on his own. But here's where your role becomes powerful. You can be his calm. You can be his peace. You can be that quiet reminder that even when he's not his best, he's still loved. You don't got to say much. Sometimes your presence is enough. The woman who knows how to be still when her man is storming, she's rare. She's the woman who gives him strength just by believing in him. Because when a man looks at a woman who doesn't flinch during his worst season, he starts believing in himself again. You ever seen a man come back stronger after he's been distant? That's because he had a woman who didn't panic during his pause. She trusted that his silence wasn't the end, it was the rebuild. And when he finally got back right, he came back with more love, more purpose, more appreciation. Because men don't forget the women who stood by them when they were broken. They remember the patience. They remember the peace. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to sit around forever waiting on a man who won't communicate. There's a difference between giving space and tolerating neglect. A man who loves you will still give you small signs that he's there. He might not be talkative, but he'll check in. He might be distant, but he won't disappear. You'll feel his effort, even in his silence. That's the difference between distance for healing and distance for escape. One leads back to connection. The other leads to closure. You got to have discernment. Ask yourself, does this man's quiet come from confusion or from care? Is he pulling back because he's tired of me or because he's tired of himself? The answer to that question changes everything. If it's the latter, give him patience. If it's the former, give yourself peace. Men are taught to carry the world on their shoulders. And when that world gets heavy, they don't always know how to say, baby, I'm not okay. Instead, they just start moving differently. They get quiet. They work longer hours. They stare into space. They seem distant. That's their way of coping. That's them trying to protect you from the storm they're in. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is just remind him that he doesn't have to face it alone, that you see him even when he's silent. There's something powerful about a woman who knows how to wait without worrying. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't take his silence personally. She understands that men aren't wired to talk every emotion out. She knows that real connection sometimes requires quiet understanding, not constant conversation. And when that man finally comes back around, because trust me, if he loves you, he'll come back with a heart full of gratitude, because he'll realize he found something rare, a woman who didn't walk away when he needed to step back. You know, I always tell people relationships aren't just about love. They're about time and maturity and emotional intelligence. Sometimes your partner's silence is testing all three. Can you love him even when he's not at his best? Can you trust him even when he's not talking? Can you stay grounded even when the connection feels shaky? That's where real love is proven. Because here's the truth. Every man goes through a season where he feels lost. But the right woman doesn't make him feel worse. She makes him feel seen. She gives him room to breathe, to rebuild, to remember who he is. And when he rises again, he'll never forget the woman who believed in him during the silence. So ladies, when that man seems distant, don't panic. Don't assume the worst. Look deeper. Because that distance might just be him gathering his courage, finding his confidence, and preparing to come back stronger. It's not detachment. It's development. Sometimes silence isn't the sound of a relationship ending. It's the sound of a man rebuilding himself to love you better. You just got to trust the process, stay calm in the pause, and remember, real love doesn't run from silence. It understands it. It waits through it. It grows from it. Because when a man finds his strength again, he doesn't forget the woman who stood with him when he was weak. He'll come back not just loving you, but honoring you because you loved him at his lowest without needing him to be perfect. And that right there is the kind of love that lasts. When a man truly loves a woman, that love doesn't always explode with fireworks and grand gestures. Sometimes it burns slow and deep. A quiet, powerful flame that never goes out, even when life gets cold. But here's the thing, that kind of love doesn't always look the way you expect it to. You might think his distance means disinterest. You might think his quiet means he doesn't care. But baby, sometimes that man is just wrestling with a kind of emotion he's never felt before. He's not pulling away because the love is weak. He's pulling back because it's so strong it scares him. That's the part most people never understand. A man's fire burns quiet before it blazes bright. Men and women process love differently. Women are emotional, expressive, open. You fall in love and you want to talk about it, share it, celebrate it. You want to hold it close and let the world know it's yours. But men, we don't always know how to handle love that deep. When something touches our heart in a way we've never felt, it stirs things inside we're not prepared for. See, men are taught to control emotions, not to be consumed by them. But when real love hits a man, it shakes that control. It exposes his vulnerability, his fears, his insecurities. And that's why he pulls back, not because he doesn't love you, but because he's trying to understand what's happening to him. Let me tell you something about men. We fear what we can't control. And love, real, deep, soul-stirring love, that's something you can't control. It makes you feel exposed. It makes you want to protect something with everything in you. It makes you realize how much you could lose. So sometimes when a man steps back, it's not because he's losing interest. It's because he's realizing how much he stands to lose if he messes this up. That distance is fear wrapped in caution. That silence is his heart trying to catch up to his emotions. See, when a man loves, he feels it in a way he can't explain. But instead of showing it through constant words or affection, he internalizes it. He studies, he observes you. He analyzes how he fits into your life, how he can be better for you. He's quiet because he's planning. He's distant because he's reflecting. He's not detaching. He's digesting. Now, here's the tricky part, because from your point of view, it looks like he's withdrawing. It feels like he's fading, and that can trigger your fear that he's losing interest, fear that he's done. But if you panic during that phase, if you start chasing him, questioning him, demanding explanations, you disrupt his process. You make him feel pressured instead of understood, and pressure makes a man retreat even more. What he needs in that moment isn't interrogation. It's patience. He's not ignoring you, he's feeling you in silence. Love for a man is like fire for a blacksmith. It has to heat him up before it shapes him. It burns, it challenges, it refines him. That's why some men seem distant right before they commit. They're processing the weight of that commitment. They're asking themselves, am I ready to love her right? Am I good enough? Can I sustain this? And while he's asking himself those questions, he may get quiet, he may seem distracted, but that doesn't mean his feelings are fading. It means he's preparing to love you fully. A real man doesn't take love lightly. When he truly feels it, he wants to do it right. And sometimes doing it right means taking a step back to make sure he's steady. He wants to love you from a place of strength, not insecurity. So he'll pull away to get his emotions in check, to align his priorities, to make sure that when he gives himself to you, he can give you something real, not just temporary excitement. You might not see what's happening on the surface, but inside, that man is burning. He's thinking about you, missing you, imagining the future. He's fighting his fear, silencing his doubts, and reminding himself that you're worth the risk. His distance is not disconnection, it's discipline. It's him saying, I'm not going to play with her heart until I know what I'm ready for. And if you understand that, you'll stop misreading his quiet as coldness. You'll start seeing it for what it really is, care. Because a man who doesn't care won't think twice. But a man who does will overthink everything. Now, let's talk about fear. Because that's really what drives this kind of distance. When a man has been hurt before, when he's seen love fall apart, when he's carried heartbreak or failure, real love becomes scary. It's not that he doesn't want it, it's that he knows the price of losing it. And when he meets a woman who makes him feel something real again, all that old pain rises up. He's terrified of repeating the same mistakes. So his instinct says, slow down. That's his guard, not his goodbye. Ladies, sometimes the love you think is fading is really just forming. It's growing roots. It's getting deep before it gets visible. A man's heart takes time to unfold. He may not show his love the way you expect it, through constant words and affection. But when he's ready, that love will show up loud and clear. You just got to give it time to breathe. Now, that doesn't mean you sit around forever waiting on him to figure himself out. No, you still live your life. You still set your boundaries. You still expect respect. But don't let impatience make you misread his process. Because sometimes that space is the very thing that allows the love to grow stronger. When you stop demanding, you start allowing. And when you allow, you make space for something real to take root. I've seen men fall hard for women and then go distant, not because the feeling faded, but because they didn't know how to handle the intensity. They'll say things like, I just need to think, or I need some time. And when they do, most women panic. But if you can stay calm, if you can give him that breathing room, he'll come back with more clarity, more commitment, and more conviction. Because real love needs space to settle. Let me tell you something from experience. When a man's really burning for you, even his distance feels different. You'll still feel him. You'll still see his effort in little things. He may not talk as much, but he'll still check on you. He may not show up every day, but he'll still find ways to make sure you're good. That's how you know it's not detachment. It's just him balancing his emotions. A man who's losing interest stops showing up altogether. But a man who's burning inside for you, he can't help but stay connected, even if it's quiet. His pride won't let him chase, but his heart won't let him leave. That's love that's still alive, just learning how to breathe. Here's the beautiful part. When a man finally figures it out, when he's done fighting his fears and finds his footing, he'll come back different. He'll be clearer, more intentional, more expressive. You'll see the flame in his eyes, and you'll feel it in how he moves. Because once he's sure about you, he won't hold back anymore. The same man who was distant will suddenly be all in, and you'll realize that distance wasn't rejection. It was transformation. It was him learning how to love you right. But here's the challenge. Most relationships don't make it to that point. They fall apart in the waiting phase. Because the woman assumes he's pulling away emotionally. She starts matching his energy. She stops giving warmth, stops showing patience. And what happens next? Two people who care deeply about each other start acting like strangers. Not because the love died, but because misunderstanding killed it. If you can learn to trust the process, if you can look beyond the silence and see the struggle, you'll find peace in the pause. You'll know when a man's quiet isn't coldness, it's caution. You'll recognize that some fires burn slow, but once they catch, they light up everything around them. A man's love, when it's real, might not always start loud. It might come in waves. Closeness, then distance, then closeness again. But don't mistake that rhythm for confusion. That's just him learning how to love with depth, not impulse. Because see, the easy kind of love, that fast, flashy kind, that burns out. But the kind that takes its time to grow, that lasts. So if you're with a man who's quiet right now, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't beg him to be expressive before he's ready. Just keep being steady, keep being warm, keep being understanding. Because your calm gives his heart room to settle. And once he realizes that you're safe, that he can love you without losing himself, he'll come back blazing. Because that's what happens when a man truly falls. His love might start quiet, but when he finally gives in, it's all consuming. He'll protect you, prioritize you, and prove it in ways words could never match. That slow burn becomes a steady fire. And that's the kind of love that doesn't flicker when life gets hard. So don't mistake his distance for detachment. Don't assume the quiet means it's over. Sometimes that's the moment before his breakthrough. Sometimes that's the silence before he says, "You're it for me." Real love doesn't rush, it rises. And when a man's heart finally catches up to his feelings, you won't have to question where you stand. You'll feel it. Because that's what happens when a man's quiet fire finally turns into a blazing love. It's steady, it's certain, and it's forever. Now let's talk about one of the hardest but most powerful lessons you'll ever learn in love. Don't chase, just be his calm in the storm. When a man starts to pull away, your first instinct might be to chase him, question him, fix him, or beg him to open up. That comes from fear. Fear of losing him. Fear of being left hanging. Fear that the love you built might slip away. But baby, let me tell you something straight from a man's perspective. When a woman chases a man who's retreating, she's chasing him right out the door. Because men don't respond to pressure, we respond to peace. See, when a man starts acting distant, he's not always doing it because he's done or disconnected. Sometimes he's overwhelmed. Sometimes he's dealing with a fight you can't see. And sometimes he just doesn't have the words to explain what he's feeling. He ain't trying to hurt you. He's just trying to process life. But when you panic, when you start blowing up his phone, asking, what's wrong? Did I do something? Why are you acting like this? You're feeding his stress instead of easing it. You're turning his internal storm into a bigger one. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should tolerate neglect or disrespect. But there's a difference between a man who's ghosting you and a man who's gathering himself. When a man loves you, even if he's quiet, his actions will still whisper his care. He might not be around as much, but he'll still make sure you're okay. He might not be as talkative, but he'll still check in. He's not cutting you off. He's just catching his breath. That's where your calm becomes his anchor. You see, men crave peace more than anything. A man can fight the world all day, but if he comes home to a woman who brings him peace, that's the woman he'll never want to lose. And peace doesn't mean silence. It means presence. It's the energy that says, I'm here, I'm steady, and I'm not letting my emotions run this ship. It's not about ignoring him. It's about understanding him. When he's in that quiet, distant mode, you don't need to match his energy. You need to master yours. Let me tell you something from experience. A woman who can stay calm while a man finds his balance is magnetic. She doesn't chase him because she knows her worth. She doesn't beg for attention because she knows what she brings to the table. She doesn't blow up his phone or demand answers because she understands that real connection doesn't need to be forced. She stays grounded, she keeps her energy soft, and that stillness pulls him back stronger than any words ever could. When a man's going through something, he doesn't need another person trying to fix him. He needs someone who believes in him while he fixes himself. That's the difference between chaos and comfort. You can't heal a man with your worry. You heal him with your peace. When you show him that you're not going anywhere, that you trust his process, that you're not going to crumble because he's distant, you give him the safety to open up again. Now, I know it's not easy. When you love someone deeply, silence feels heavy. Distance feels like rejection. Your mind starts making up stories. Maybe he's losing interest. Maybe there's someone else. Maybe I did something wrong. But most times it ain't about you at all. It's about what's going on in his world, in his mind. Men internalize things differently. We go quiet when we're stressed. We isolate when we're unsure. Ever retreat when we feel weak. That's not detachment, that's self-preservation. And when you can understand that, you stop taking everything personally. Here's the truth. You can't pull a man closer by chasing him. You can only draw him back by letting him feel your peace. Think about it like this. When someone's drowning, you can't jump in and flail around with them. You both go under. You got to stay calm, hold your ground, and extend your hand when they're ready to grab it. That's what being as calm in the storm looks like. You don't get caught up in his chaos. You stay grounded enough for both of you. And listen, you're calm doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're detached. It means you love him enough to give him space without losing yourself in the process. You love him enough to trust that if it's real, it'll find its way back. That kind of emotional maturity is powerful. Men respect it because it says, I love you, but I also respect myself. That's the balance every healthy relationship needs. Love with boundaries, patience with purpose. Let me break it down from a man's lens for a second. When a man's going through it, maybe work pressure, personal doubts, family stuff, or even just emotional exhaustion, he feels small. And the last thing he wants is to look weak in front of the woman he loves. So what does he do? He pulls away to figure it out. He steps back to find his strength again. And when you don't chase him, when you just hold your peace and keep your light steady, you're showing him, baby, I trust you enough to let you handle this. That gives him pride, confidence, and security. He'll come back to that kind of love every single time. But if instead of calm, he comes home to chaos, if every time he's quiet, you accuse him of not caring, if every time he withdraws, you attack him with fear, he's going to feel like being around you adds to his storm, not eases it. And no man, no matter how much he loves you, can stay where he doesn't feel peace. That's why I always tell women, your greatest power in a relationship is not your beauty, not your body, not even your words. It's your energy. The right energy can either heal or harm the connection. When you embody calm, you send a message without saying a word. You say, I'm not here to control you, I'm here to support you. That kind of energy is rare, and it's unforgettable. Every man who's ever loved a woman like that will tell you, she changed me, because she gave him something no one else could, peace in the middle of his storm. But now, let's flip this for a second. Being as calm doesn't mean you become his doormat. There's a difference between patience and passivity. You can give him space, but don't let that space turn into neglect. You can wait, but don't wait forever. If his distance turns into disrespect, if weeks go by with no effort, no communication, no intention, that's not a storm, that's avoidance. You don't have to be calm in that, you have to be clear. Because your peace isn't about tolerating bad behavior. It's about knowing when to be still and when to stand up for yourself. A woman who knows when to speak and when to stay silent has mastered emotional intelligence. She knows that sometimes love needs nurturing and sometimes it needs boundaries. So yes, be his calm when he's struggling, but never dim your light waiting on someone to find theirs. Your peace isn't just for him, it's for you too. See, here's what happens when you stay calm through his distance. You flip the dynamic. Instead of chasing him, you make him realize what he's missing. A man remembers the woman who didn't panic when he pulled away. He remembers the one who didn't guilt, trip him, or beg for his attention. Because when he comes back, and trust me, if it's real, he'll look at you different. He'll see strength where he expected drama. He'll see grace where he expected pressure. And that contrast will teach him that your love is not like the rest. When a man realizes that your energy brings him peace, he'll protect that connection with everything he's got. Because peace is rare, especially in a world full of noise, ego, and expectation. When you become that calm, you don't have to compete. You don't have to prove your worth. You just are, and that's enough. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two types of women. One panics when her man goes distant. She calls, texts, argues, begs for attention. Her energy says, I need you to make me feel secure. The other woman feels his distance too, but she stays composed. She sends one text like, I'm here when you're ready to talk. And then she goes back to living her life, taking care of herself, her peace, her purpose. Which one do you think he'll come back to? The first woman feeds his stress. The second reminds him of home. Home isn't a place, it's a feeling. And for a man, that feeling is peace. That's what being his calm in the storm really means. You become the space where he can breathe. And the truth is, it doesn't just make you his peace. It makes you unforgettable. Because in a world where everyone's shouting, the person who brings quiet becomes the loudest voice in your heart. So the next time your man grows distant, take a breath. Don't chase, don't panic, don't spiral. Remember who you are. Remember what you bring. Keep your light steady. Because if that man truly loves you, he'll find his way back. And when he does, he'll come back with gratitude and deeper respect. You don't win a man's heart by chasing him through his storm. You win it by standing firm in your peace. You don't have to fix him. You just have to remind him through your strength and your calm. That real love doesn't run when it rains. It shelters, it steadies, it waits. And that's what separates the woman who needs a man's love from the woman who inspires it. One reacts out of fear, the other moves out of faith. One panics in the storm, another becomes a calm. And every man deep down knows the difference. Because when he finds a woman like that, a woman who can love him without losing herself, he knows he's found something he can't afford to lose. So don't chase him. Don't crumble. Don't let his silence steal your peace. Just be still, be sure, and let your calm speak louder than your fear. Because real love doesn't need to be forced. It finds its way home every single time.